How did you guys get into cybersecurity?
I started messing around BBSs back in the days of, well, similar from this. After watching this,
Well, that's how you got into like technology, but like, what was your like gateway drug into?
I got you. No, but like learning that all this was possible really piqued my interest and built my passion. And then over time, I just always kind of messed around it as a hobby, and eventually, the industry got to a point where they actually start hiring people for it, and I was like, oh, I could do that.
That's right, because security wasn't a thing for a while.
It was always,
Yeah.
if you wanted to go in the military and do stuff with cyber or computers, it was you're either going as intel or that's it.
Yeah.
So, or you're going enlisted,
Yeah.
and there's like whole bunch of stuff you could do enlisted, but not for an officer route. And I didn't want to do intel, so I didn't even do it in the military until I left. And then I joined, cybercom and the Navy and all that, and did all of it. But I mean, this movie was like kind of, I've always was fascinated with it from this point on after watching this when I was a kid.
John, how'd you get into cyber?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So, well, there's a couple of things because the path started, one of my first computer consulting jobs where I got paid was with a group of Vietnam veterans, right? And they were administering the grants for victims of Agent Orange. And so someone had convinced them to buy a bunch of early Mac computers. They had a Lisa because you can put a spreadsheet on it. And I networked them all together for them and put passwords on it. And I specifically didn't go down a military path, even though it would have helped with some funding for college and stuff, because they said, kid, go to college, And when you got a Marine Corps sergeant, you got, someone from all the different branches saying, this is what you should go do. That's one of those interesting questions. I think it just comes down to the fact that, someone had to do it. And along the way, then a lot of us started collaborating. In fact, some of the folks that are early in some of our groups here, we'd get together there in Sunnyvale in the late 90s, early 2000s. Weren't many CISOs around yet, right?
No. Adam, how did you get into
No, Joel.
Oh, everybody's heard my story. I wanted to be a firefighter, and I was number 12 on the list. They hired 10, and I was working at a wood mill, and I was just going to keep going for fire departments. And wood mill shut down, and I had it was called the Timber Products Retraining Trust, and so they were going to retrain me, and I could pick a thing to retrain in. So I thought, well, I'll go be a lineman. I climb poles, use my brain a little, but be outdoors. And they said, there's big demand for this thing that's network administrator, network engineer. And I was like, I don't want to be in computers. I don't want to work in my mom's basement with a pile of Twinkie wrappers. And that's just not. And then they turned the sheet over and here's what the salary projections are. And I thought, I could learn to lift my keys. I could do this. I could do that. So started with Novell and Unix, Solaris, OpenBSD, Novell, Windows. And it turned out I loved it. It was a kick in the pants. So that was, but there wasn't any security at the time. The closest you got, there wasn't internet access. You'd have one system that had a dial up. You had your Cardinal 56K modem, if you were good, that you'd use to dial up a couple times a day to sync a database or something. So it was all IPX, SPX instead of TCP IP. So security was sonic wall firewalls. And that was pretty much it. As soon as there was, live internet connectivity. But the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act changed it all. As soon as GLBA came, and then on the heels of it was Sarbanes-Oxley, and now security was a thing instead of a weird side hobby. So that was my kickoff. What was yours, Adam?
Probably similar story. Growing up in tech, downloading music, burning CDs, building computers, fixing, parents' Wi-Fi for my friends. And then I went to college and I started in the help desk, just resetting passwords and troubleshooting printers and, fixing registries and those type of things.
Fixing
and I
registries.
worked more and more with the IT guys.
Fixing registries. I remember, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Corrupt DLLs, all that fun stuff. And then I worked with the network admin team. I spent a summer installing wireless access points and bringing on switches and LR to SR fibers, and started working more with the security team. And by my senior year of college, I was managing the McAfee EPO antivirus server as a student for the entire college. running like a bunch of things, running the blue coat packet shaper and a bunch of other fun things. And I was a finance major, and I went in, and that lasted like a semester or two, and then I switched to an education major. And when I graduated, I really didn't have anything lined up. I had like a summer gig, teaching. I had taught special ed for a little bit at that point, and the CIO for Providence College at the time was like, "Hey, you want a job and a free master's degree?" I was like, "I'd love one of those." So I stuck on as a infosec analyst, got my MBA, and then that was it, man. I just,
outstanding.
I was faced with the decision of like, I felt as though I could always go back to teaching, but I could not always go back to tech.
Yep.
Like tech in 10, 20 years from that point was going to be very different from teaching in 10, 20 years. So I went into tech. I was a engineer at Brown, ISO for a small community bank, and then on to the like global VP for a large bank, CISO, and here I am, man.
Outstanding.
The normal path of a special ed major into cybersecurity.
Skill transfer.
Normal path of a woodworker, fireman into cybersecurity.
All right, now clap.